продолжим проходить. Так, можно ли с вами поговорить, сударь?
Excuse me, sir. I have a few questions for you.
Another journalist?
I'm not a journalist. I'm a doctor.
A doctor, you say? It's quite a rare breed in this part of town.
Really?
Что-то у него низкополигональное лицо какое-то.
Dr. Jonathan Reed, at your service.
I'm Joe Peterson to some, a Colossus Joe to most, and I don't remember asking for your service, sir.
May I ask what you do around here?
I do whatever I want, and sometimes even more. Now sod off.
According to you, physicians are scarce in this part of town. Why is that?
Not familiar with this neighborhood, are you? I guess your fancy colleagues are too afraid of being stabbed in the back.
This part of town does have quite a reputation. Would you say it's justified?
Totally. Look at me, for instance. I always look my opponent in the eye before knocking him out.
Прямой чувак, да.
Have you heard of a nurse named Dorothy Crane? She's a colleague of mine and is supposed to live around here.
Dorothy Crane? Yeah, I know her. One of the few good souls who dare to help the sick around here.
Could you please tell me more about her?
She's a nice girl. Tries to help the migrants. I offered to give her a hand, but she said my reputation would attract too much attention.
Why do you keep on working for the gang, Joe? You know it doesn't suit you.
It's true, I hate this job. And I know I made some bad choices, but I'm a wet boot boy now. People won't forget it.
You could leave tomorrow. Start another life in another town.
That's easy for you to say, Doctor. We are poor. My son's weak. And there's no way he'll endure another
Так
difficult.
это он.
Harry doesn't seem happy living in Whitechapel. Why did you make him come here?
I've always put my son's interests above everything else, whatever he may think. Our house is small but affordable. The walls are thin, but the door is solid.
You really love your son, don't you, Mr. Peterson?
He's my pride and joy. Even if he hates me for the choices I make and pushes me buttons more than he should.
Do you have any regrets?
Only one. Not to have my beloved wife by my side. She died when Harry was little. My sweet Jane. She gave the boy confidence.
Since the criminal nature of your job means you could be arrested, are you not afraid of what would happen to your boy if you were?
No one will ever take my son away from me. If that ever occurred, I'd hunt the bastard down and rip off his head with my bare hands.
Ну, похоже, я все с ним поговорил.
Goodbye, Mr. Peterson.
Чего ты тут разглагольствуешь? Ну-ка, послушай.
Welcome, sir. Please take a browse of my wares.
Торгаш.
I am Dr. Reed. I would like to ask you a few questions, if you don't mind.
Doctor? Interesting. I'm Barrett Lewis. Usually I don't have time to waste with talk, but at this hour of the night I can hardly refuse.
Have you heard of a nurse called Dorothy Crane?
Nurse Crane? So the bitch really is a nurse then? Always thought she was just some crafty foreigner, that one.
So she's trying to help her fellow immigrants. Why would that make her a villain?
Dorothy Crane ain't even a real name. Something like Dorothea Craniu. Something like that. Came to England fleeing the war, I was told.
That doesn't explain why she irritates you so much.
Your precious Nurse Crane gives away medical supplies and prescriptions for free. I offered to sell it for a fair cut, but no. Miss Crane wanted to play the quiet saint.
На всем хотите нажиться, да? Даже на болезнях
How is
людей.
business around here?
Business? I had no business. Between this racket, theft, and customers getting scared, I'm losing money every day.
I see. Sounds like you blame someone in particular for your situation.
It's no secret Joe Peterson spends his time harassing merchants. But with me, he's trying to put me out of business once and for all.
As a merchant, you see Whitechapel every day. Have you noticed anything out of the ordinary recently?
What you mean besides the epidemic, the war, and all the usual crap? As long as I can remember, this part of town has been a bottomless pit, and no sign of the bottom yet.
Violence is increasing in the bar.
Yeah. A few nights ago, some blokes jumped me. Came out of one of the condemned workshops. Fever, madness, something like that.
Where did this happen? Why did you go there?
In the closed workshops nearby. I worked there as an apprentice in better days. Now I only go to find trinkets or tools. Too bad I was mugged though. There was good money in that little box of loot I lost.
Have you been hurt?
No, but that's only because I ran like hell. Those men were raving lunatics, I tell you. Not even able to speak anymore, just screaming.
Эх.
Right then. Show me what you have.
А вот это мне пригодится. Эх, не хватает. Ну ладно, пойдем к нему наведаемся сразу. Если, конечно же, смогу.
What do you want? Leave me alone. Good evening, sir. I'm Dr. Reed. I'm looking for Nurse Dorothy Crane.
There is no Dorothy Crane here. Now goodbye.
I'm afraid this medical leaflet says the opposite, sir.
Really? Well, I'm afraid I'm going to close this door right now. Go bother someone else, Mr. Doctor.
To enter that house, I must discover who this man really is. Maybe I could start by observing what he's up to.
У тебя бронхит. Ах ты жопа, ты еще и обошел и закрыл дверь.
A strange man was at the door with a pass for our medical facility. I refused him entry.
Darius, how could you know he didn't need our help?
His clothes were too finely tailored to be for Whitechapel.
Perhaps just a friend of that stray poet who is always about.
Richard Nithercott? No, not of the same cloth, this man. I suspect some machination from that journalist.
Clayton Darby. Is he still asking questions?
Yes. I saw him drifting around St. Mary's Church. I swear he is tracking me just downwind.
I cannot. I must talk to that journalist or the poet. They must know about Darius. Nearby the church they just mentioned.
Ну, пойдем поговорим.
Cheap price, good quality. Come on, take a look. Don't be afraid.
Возможно, это он, но я не уверен. Давай посмотрим.
Forgive my interruption.
Do not apologize, my son. Father Tobias Whittaker is always happy to teach mortals about the incoming Armageddon.
I am Dr. Jonathan Reed, and I just have a few questions.
A scientist? You are much more lost than I thought, my son.
Какой ученый? Он доктор, блин, ученый.
What do you mean when you say that I am more lost than you thought?
All scientists are entangled in a world of causes
Почему
and
они
consequences,
учеными называют
and
врачей?
most of them can't see the plain truth.
Quite a judgmental opinion, if you ask me. But what do I know? Blinded by science as I am.
Well, you are seeking answers, aren't you? Answers about the Armageddon about to strike the city. Answers about
Как
the
раз
hidden
таки
truth.
немного тогда
I am.
сошли с ума, походу, святые.
Not superstition.
Или, может, мне что-нибудь интересно сказать?
So you,
Well, I suppose I can spare a few minutes listening to your so-called...
Ну-ка, да, расскажи.
as a doctor, you must be aware of a decimating epidemic. But let me tell you that this so-called Spanish flu is just the beginning of the end.
What do you mean?
The beast is finally revealing itself, corrupting the flesh and the heart of men. With my own
Ты
eyes
убийцу
I've
вампира
seen
видел?
those minions from the abyss.
А может, оборотня?
Really? And what would be your answer to this big conflict?
We must fight the disease before this legion outnumbers us. But not with scalpels and microscopes. No,
What is left then?
cleansing fire.
Tell me, Tobias, what exactly is your plan concerning the cleansing of this city?
God will recognize his own. More than once this city has risen from the ashes.
Это он, что ли, банду основал?
Purified by the flames.
Что-то как-то странно говорит. Почему 20-й? Это что, в 1900 году было, что ли?
Purification by fire has proved useful, but where do you stop? Burn the clothes? The buildings? The corpses? Worse?
Your lack of faith is predictable. But my task is to convince rational minds like yours to see the light. This is God's will.
You're mad and dangerous. You're nothing but a soulless butcher, a small-time Torquemada, the Savonarola of Whitechapel.
My son, if you think salvation is a free gift, go listen to the lies of that pompous fool, Joseph.
Joseph, a fool.
Vicar Larrabee of St. Mary's Church. While he continues preaching his fraudulent redemption, more and more people die in the streets.
Да. А ты как будто что-то можешь сделать, да? Ты то же самое делаешь. Только проповедуешь, ничем не можешь помочь.
My
Joseph.
Vicar,
Do you know Nurse Dorothy Crane from the Pembroke Hospital? I'd like to know more about her.
I don't like the liberal ideas of nurses, but I especially abhor that Nurse Crane you mentioned.
So, you're not exactly a fan of Florence Nightingale's work. But nurses are essential for modern healthcare.
Nuns should be the only women allowed to take care of male patients.
Ну да, он
It's
точно
obvious
помутнел
only they have the
рассудок у
necessary
него.
moral fiber.
Why do you hate Nurse Crane more than other nurses?
Before coming to London, she was a member of the communist resistance in our country. That's what happens when you let a woman get involved in politics.
Интересные факты, спасибо.
Have you any friends? Any family left in these terrible times?
No. But I have a disciple I see as my son. He is so devout. I sent him to preach the good word in the heart of this corrupted city.
Where did you send him?
I sent Samuel to the Stonebridge Cemetery, where the pestilence and evil grows night after night.
Ну да, это очень поможет ему.
You sent him on some preaching crusade during the epidemic.
As a true believer, Samuel will fear no evil while he walks through the
Долина смерти,
valley of
это
the
прям
shadow
четко
of
сказано.
death.
Тут одна смерть.
Don't you fear getting sick yourself?
I've been touched by God's grace. I am perfectly healthy.
Очень хорошо.
I have had enough for tonight.
Может, это ты, Клейтон? Давай послушаем.
Excuse me, sir.
Да,
Are you
точно.
familiar with this part of town? Name's Clayton Darby, reporter.
Sorry, I'm new to
Какой
my
репортер, блин.
but perhaps you could help me since you're a journalist. My name is Jonathan Reed.
Dr. Reed, the famous surgeon. I'll gladly help if I'm able, sir.
Why are the newspapers keeping silent about the Spanish influenza? It's as though none of you care.
There's a war going on. People shouldn't be demoralized by news of deadly diseases.
Ну, блин, с одной стороны это плохо, что люди в неведении, а с другой стороны и правда. Вдруг еще хуже паника начнется. Ну, все же это преступление держать в неведении людей. Вот это преступное или позор?
It's a disgrace. People are left to die alone. No one is properly informed of the risks.
These are bad times indeed. So much for the glorious British Empire.
Have you any idea of the danger you face in these streets at night?
I've had to run and hide more than once from frenzied mobs incensed by the fever. Do you think the flu is really responsible for this, Doctor?
That science is unable to explain the facts doesn't mean there is no rational explanation.
I confess, I share your point of view, Doctor.
What is a journalist doing in this borough after sunset?
He goes where none of his colleagues would dare to go, to inform the country.
So you risk your life to reveal the truth. I saw many reporters do the same during the war.
Whitechapel is the crucible of so many untold stories and tragedies. I want people to know them.
That's quite honorable. But is the public interested?
Not at all, sir. And that's why I'm an independent journalist, hoping to sell some stories.
Have you... I've had to let some...
Понятно, если ты там уже выбрал, то уже все. Так, понятно, тут ничего.
I heard you're investigating an underground medical dispensary in Whitechapel. What do you know about it?
Not much, I'm afraid. They are wary of strangers, and I'm not really an acquaintance of theirs. Why do you care?
Ну, насчет закона я не знаю.
I'm a doctor, Mr. Darby. I care about everything involving public health at this epidemic.
Are you sure you're not just concerned about the repercussions that a scandal involving a certain nurse Crane from the Pembroke Hospital would bring?
Without a doubt, you are a damn fine journalist, Mr. Darby. What do you know of her accomplice, a man named Darius?
I don't know much about the man. He's very cautious. Never goes out. Doesn't seem to have any friends or family.
He has no relatives at all?
No. Except for that strange man, a poet named Richard Nethercott, who sometimes comes by. Darius would never let him in.
Where can I find this Mr. Nethercott?
He spends most of his time lurking around Whitechapel, talking to himself or declaring verses. These days, you can usually find him behind the church.
За церковь.
He never goes out.
No. A few days ago, he unexpectedly did. I followed him, but it was just a ruse to keep me away from his house.
Really? How do you know?
He went to the nearest mailbox, but just before posting his letter, he ripped it up and threw it away.
Любопытно. Так, тут я все спросил, да? И тут все. Значит, все.
Goodbye, Mr. Darby. Farewell.
Блин, еще почтовый ящик найти. Пойдем посмотрим. Так, здесь почтовый ящик, да, есть? Интересно. Девушка, можно с вами поговорить?
I'm Dr. Reed. I'd like to ask you a few questions. I know what you're thinking. A tall stranger who meets a girl in the street at night. It reeks of the penny dreadfuls. But I mean you no harm, true. Maria, I know you work for Dorothy Crane. Please tell me about her secret dispensary. A stubborn and mute comrade. Nurse Crane and Darius Petrescu have been clever. I know you understand. You don't seem to need my medical attention. Very well. Goodbye.
Так, почтовый ящик. Возможно, это здесь, да. Ага, Румыния, понятно.
The content of Darius' letter to his children could give me more leverage to enter.
Так, надо еще с одним человеком поговорить. Так, тут пройти. Ну, о. Блин, а как мне тогда туда пройти? Это обходить, что ли?
It's locked.
Возможно, это он. Блин, он похож на этого актера, блин, когда Шерлока Холмса снимал. Очень похож. Чему стоит здесь перемахнуть, просто взять и все? Но нет. Давай посмотрим, как тут обойти. Вот он. Да, это я в другой район выйду. Значит, надо смотреть где-то здесь. Вопрос только в том, как мне обогнуть тогда его. Спрятан-то он хорошо. Так, ладно. Попробуем там быстро смотреть. попробуем его завалить. Так. Хотя нет, пусть будет. Блин, можно было глушить. Да ты не того бьешь-то, елки-палки. А, он уже мертв, ладно, хорошо. Подойдет. Так, ну-ка.
Good evening, sir. I'm Dr. Reed. I would like to ask you a few questions. Please be my guest, although I may not be the best informant regarding this part of town. My words speak about that which the eyes cannot see. Really? Are you an artist of some kind? I'm a poet, sir. Richard Nethercott, at your service. May I ask what you're doing at this hour of night? Do you live here? Not at all. I'm just enjoying the pleasure of a quiet walk. Though night talks are always preferable, if you ask me, especially with strangers. But are you not afraid of the epidemic? Oh, why should I? I see some equity in the Spanish flu. No flesh should be saved, say the scriptures. Good or evil, rich or poor, all are equal in the eyes of the flu. If you say so. But as a physician in a time of epidemic, I must caution you to avoid unnecessary exposure, sir. Thank you, Doctor. But we both know the seeker of truth has to go boldly where the weak dare not.
А, так у тебя простуда.
Do you need medical attention, sir? It may be wise to let you prescribe something. I don't feel like I should. I understand your appetite for words and can't eat you words, but you should be more careful. The nutrition of my mind is more important than my physical health, but I appreciate your concern, sir.
Так, здесь я все смотрел. Нет.
May I ask what you're doing? Not...
Стоя, все, я понял, я с тобой поговорил.
What are your thoughts on the terrible situation in this city? Terrible, you say? No. Of course, the death of so many innocents is a tragedy. But the scourge has not been all bad for the city. Oh, no, sir. What are you talking about? Do you remember London before the flu? Noisy, cacophonic, quiet nowhere to be found. And now, listen to this oddly peaceful silence. My mother loved poetry. Perhaps your words would have touched her sensitive nature. I only see a dreadful disease. Most people fail to understand my perspective. I don't blame them. But how could I call myself a poet if I veiled my feelings? Are you aware that your life could be in danger in this part of town? But this is where I must be to feel the real beat of the city. I had to come, see it for myself, alone. If some misfortune came upon you, who would be here to help you? Well, you, for a start, my dear doctor. I understand your need for solitude, but it's not safe around here. I don't care. I don't have many friends, Doctor, and my family despises me. Tell me, Mr. Nethercott, Why seek inspiration in Whitechapel? The place is not beautiful per se, but how to explain it? Stirring and challenging. Do you not think it a little morbid? On the contrary, sir. Whitechapel is full of life, full of beauty. Just like my dear muse, the wonderful Camellia. What can you tell me about Camellia? Not much. And that's the beauty of it. She can't speak, you know. She's a locked mystery who exhales kindness and sweetness. Perhaps you're just afraid to find out the truth about your muse. One day, perhaps, I'll ask her to come with me. But will she still be my wildflower of Whitechapel if she moves uptown? And have you ever tried to learn more about her? Where she lives? How she survives? Whom she may know? Maybe I prefer she remains an enigma. Reality can be so dull, don't you think? In what way, exactly? The struggle by gaslight, the barren smiles and the arid hunger under the rain. If you say so. Such vibrant antagonism and vivid paradox. The stripped humanity raged across each street. Vivid, of course, yes. And what about the poignant distress? Oh yes, the poignant distress. You see what I mean, don't you? That's what I want to write about. And that's what Whitechapel is made of.
Странный какой-то поэт.
Did you know the mute florist is a member of a secret society? No, I didn't. But I thank you for this information, sir. For it only enriches the mystery surrounding the precious Camellia. I fear you are a hopeless romantic, Mr. Mythical. Guilty as charged, Dr. Reed. Are you not curious? Is there not more you wish to know? That girl has not an ounce of malice in her. Whatever she may be hiding, it's certain to be for the benefit of most, if not all.
Так, значит, все, да?
May I ask you a few questions about the district? Extraordinary part of town, is it not? I'll be glad to help you, if I can. I'm looking for Dorothy Crane, a nurse who lives in this vicinity. Dorothy Crane. Oh, I love the name. The Crane of Whitechapel. Sounds very mysterious. But, sorry, no, never heard of him. What can you tell me about an old man called Darius? Darius Petrescu? Yes, I know him. At first, I thought he was only a small publisher. I invited him to publish my work, but his reaction was pretty clear. Not interested in your talent? Darius is an old political activist who takes delight in printing tracts and lampoons. Those communist activities only require mediocre writing skills.
Ну что ж, спасибо.
I'll leave you alone, sir. Darius is a bit less of a mystery now. It should not be that difficult to incite him to let me.
Блин. Эта игра сплошные диалоги просто. Так. Так, а тут ничего, да? Ну, пойдем опять к этому старичку. Будь здоров.
Cheap price, good quality. Come on, take a look.
Ну что ж, Дариус, давай с тобой еще раз поговорим.
Mr. Petrescu, just 1 minute, please. You again. Go away.
Ах ты.
Sir, wait. Stop this nonsense. I know Nurse Crane is here. Shall we speak man to man, you and I?
All right. Speak up.
Don't you see we're on the same side? We fight to help the poor, sick, and abandoned.
I'm nothing like you, Mr. Potter.
Yes, you are. You too believe in providing medical care without charge. You know what we have to sacrifice to make the world a better place.
I have to admit your words have conviction. All right, I'll let you see Dorothea.
Интересно, как уровень гипноза прокачать. Надо будет посмотреть. А то он не хватает. Так, сначала мы, как обычно, облутаемся. Много полезного можно найти. Ай. Да что ж ты. Ладно. Блин, какой только что открыл. Нет, не то. Кажется, вот это. Да. Понятно. Что с тобой еще поговорить можно?
If you want to talk to Dorothea, you must.
We've not been formally introduced.
I am Darius Petrescu. I'm here to keep snitches and spies
Какой
away
молодец.
from Dorothea. And I also run this little print shop.
So Dorothy's real name is not Crane.
Like myself and many people in this area, Dorothea is from occupied
Понятно, почему он
Romania.
ее прикрывает.
That's all you need to know.
She seems important to the community.
More than you can imagine. The West End does not want to hear of Whitechapel's misery. Dorothea is one of the few doing something about it.
Tell me everything you know about Camellia, the mute florist.
I do not believe in the afterlife, Doctor, but I'm almost convinced Camellia is an angel. She volunteered to give out our medical leaflets.
Are you not worried for her safety?
She is as brave as she is tough, and clever too. If only I had met her when I was younger.
Are you in love with Camellia, Mr. Francesco?
Don't be stupid. If I had met her when I was younger, we could have won our revolution.
Who is she, really? Do you know where she's from?
She's not from around here, that's all we know. Camellia is not even her name. It's her favorite flower.
You say she has no close family.
Well, there's that awful poet who constantly follows her around like a lost puppy. A good man for sure, but a very poor writer.
Теперь понятно, что не хочет.
Did you refuse to
Издатель.
publish Richard Nethercott's previous works, Darius?
Yes, his manuscript is as pompous as he is starched.
Ну да,
there's a
поэтому мне
man
тоже не
who
сильно
loved
понравилось.
the
С его
sound of his
взглядами.
own voice.
You could have told him so.
As a great writer recently said, politeness is the most acceptable hypocrisy.
Не понял, почему он мне все еще светится.
Tell me
I
everything.
do not believe.
Ну ладно.
Do you have any family left?
Who knows? I have a back.
Don't be embarrassed, sir. If you must know, my own father disappeared many years ago, and I forgave him.
It's quite awkward to talk about our families like this, but thank you, Dr. Reed. I appreciate your trust.
This war won't last forever. Did you ever think of returning to your country now it's free?
No. I have taught strength and determination to my sons and daughters. I'm an old, dying man who only has memories of better times to cherish.
How did you meet Nurse Crane, Darius? Why does she trust you?
I'm her oldest friend in England. Dorothea and I share many ideas about this country and about the country we left.
You mean occupied Romania, don't you? Even if not directly, I fought against your enemies.
Really? Then perhaps you have more in common with Doroti than meets the eye, Dr. Reed.
I know you fought for your country when it was occupied, Darius. Tell me more about it.
I know my days are numbered, and I know I won't see my homeland again. But I fought for Romania all my life, and I will until my last breath.
But Romania escaped the grasp of the Austro-Hungarian Empire. It's a free country again.
It is not the country I fought for. My homeland is not appeased, Doctor. I still see a dark future ahead for my people.
Goodbye, Mr. Petrescu.
Так как очень много времени потратили на эти все разговоры и выяснения, пожалуй, тогда на этом закончим. Продолжим дальше потом.